Now then, you're very welcome back. So let's go over to France where Pat Nevin is standing by. Good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing? Are you well?
I'm very well. I see, according to JP, who you've been talking to, that you've been at France, Korea in Paris. You have been Scotland, England in Nice, Scotland, Japan in Rennes, France, Nigeria in Paris, and then tomorrow it will be Argentina, Scotland in Paris, which sounds like a thoroughly nice way to spend a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and to be honest, even in the midst of all that, there's been a lot of spare time. So I've managed to fit in popping over to Roland Garros, which is like 200 yards over that way, which is 200 yards short of PSG's ground. So I've not got far to go. So it's been a bit of a cruise. It's been brilliant. And I'll be absolutely honest with you, I've made great use of all Paris's art galleries. I went to the Musée d'Orsay today as well. So I'm not struggling, to be honest. It's not a bad place to have a World Cup. However, after tomorrow night's game, then it gets a wee bit mad. Then it becomes like every other World Cup. You're just travelling and travelling and travelling. And you've no idea 2 days before where you're going to be, because nobody knows who's going to win, etc. So the next time, probably 3 or 4 days, I'll be in either Grenoble or Rennes or somewhere else. It won't be Nice, sadly.
Okay, well, I'll come to Nice in a moment. How was the Roland Garros experience?
Very, very weird, because obviously I'm over here for the Women's World Cup, which I'm really excited about. I'm a big fan of women's football. Scotland, obviously being here. England, the first game was Scotland v England. But, the semi-finals of the women's tennis was on the day before. And I thought, hey, that sounds like a bit of fun. I wonder if I could really struggle and get a ticket. Walked up, on the gate, €20. Yeah, just go in, sit in the front row. And you don't get that at Wimbledon. No. It was the usual British failure at the last hurdle, Joanna Conte. But it was really weird, that the very, very top level of tennis. And the upsetting thing was, I walked out of that one, and I noticed there was another game going on next door in the big, in the biggest one. And of course, it was Nadal versus Federer. I would have been a wee bit more than €20 for that, to be honest.
I would have thought so. Still, €20 just to get in the door is quite something.
Yeah, and a skilled place as well. I've been running every day when I've been here. I've been here for about 6 days now, 5 days now, running every day. And it's just the weirdest thing. I've just really got to know Paris. Anyone who doesn't know it, I mean, everyone knows it's a great city, but you run past Roland Garros, you run past Paris Saint-Germain Stadium, you're right onto the Bois de Boulogne, which is this fabulous, enormous park, which I got completely lost in for an hour and a half. And I'm going to use a line on you now, which you're not allowed to smirk when I say it, okay? I can see you going already. While I was running through the park, I picked up a 15-stone transsexual. And as I was running back afterwards, I thought, how am I going to explain that one to people? This person had fallen. Oh, done, you didn't smirk. I'm really impressed. This person had actually fallen and couldn't get up, and it was the drink. And I helped, got him, her, whatever she wanted to identify as against a tree and sat her there, and falling down all the time. And then I looked around, and there were about 7 other people of unusual and slightly differing takes. And I'm thinking, this could look bad here, but it didn't. Everyone else was really, really helpful. They're pretty cool here in Paris. You're
not getting the snooty French cliche, no?
I'm not. We went to Rennes, and Rennes was like, it's kind of halfway between Paris and London. And it kind of feels like, they just want to show how French they are, but how nice they are as well. The food's absolutely brilliant. And it's a small town, but they don't speak as much English. The big thing about Paris now, I've noticed over the last 25, 30 years, is that everybody speaks English just about now. They pretend for a wee while they don't, but they do actually. And there's no sneering anymore. And I find this as I go around various World Cups now, the kind of sneering is gone from the youngsters. The youngsters get it. You need to know English. They want to speak English to you. It happened in Russia, big style. Everyone under about 30. And that's some over, some under, but everyone under 30 wants to speak English. And in France, whereas it used to be a sneer, it's not a sneer anymore. Everyone wants to speak English. And the poor losers like me are the ones that are trying to speak a bit of French and looking a bit stupid with a Glasgow accent.
I know. It is to all our shame in the English-speaking world how poor we are when it comes to language.
Yeah, I would argue against that. Can I make an argument against that?
Yes, do.
Right. I used to think that, and I don't think it anymore. The reason being, if you're in Poland, what's your second language? It's English, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in Russia, what's your second language? It's English. If you're in anywhere, Spain, France, what's your second language? It's English. It's basically just English as the language. So the reason why us lot don't bother with another one, because there's no obvious other one to learn that would be as useful. So I'm sticking by that argument, right?
Yeah, you're on your own there. I'm sticking to mine. I was reading, so it's funny to get a handle on whether this tournament has been a big success or not in broad terms, and I guess some of the metrics we might use would be full stadiums and TV audience. Like, I'm reading very contrasting takes in different papers, and it's hard to know the reality. For instance, I'll give you a sense of the two pieces I just read. There was a piece in The Guardian which is talking about the many empty stadiums and saying it's a bit embarrassing for the tournament. Just 14 games down as sellouts, the final and semi-final included. Either way, this is staggeringly low for a major international tournament. There are 24 teams in France. We are talking significantly less than one game per team sold out. And they're arguing as well that the overall sales, there were 1.3 million tickets sold for Canada 4 years ago. They've just gone past the million marker in France this time around, so they're pitching this as a poor showing. By the same token, another piece in the Irish Times on TV figures. TF1, France's main broadcaster for the tournament, they had expected the opening match, the opening French match, to draw 5 million viewers. Instead, they got close to 11 million. France's second group game against Norway, they got to 11 million, which was on a par with the number of people who watched the men's opening matches in 2018. Advertising cost around French games has jumped up 50 to 70%. And they say England's match against Argentina got 1.5 million viewers, while over 1 million tuned into the US. And the sense was this thing has become big business and is improving all the time. I'm sure we're somewhere in between massive success and terrible failure, as always with these things. What is your sense on the ground, in so much as you can garner one?
Well, you can garner because as I've been to 4 cities. You know, I'm moving around. I'm going to get to see most. On the ground, you don't see it. It's almost as if this competition isn't happening. There's no big banners. You know, you go to any World Cup, you know, be it real. You know, like they don't really need to actually go and sell it, but they do. And you go to South Africa, whatever. You know, and there's banners everywhere, and it's a World Cup, and everyone's proud of it. You walk around Paris in particular, it might not be on. You know, fair enough, they had Roland Garros, they had the big tennis on at the same time. But what they are arguing is they do their advertising on TV. So forget about your banners. That's where you actually make the money. That's where you actually go and provide a little bit of a push, and that's where you get people interested on TV. Problem is, the vast majority of games that we're beginning to see now, it's not actually French people that are there. It's actually, you know, if you go to a US game, the place is absolutely mobbed with US fans. They're absolutely amazing. There's so many of them turn up. But interest in this competition out with the actual the French people themselves. It's not happened yet, but I say yet. It might still. Remember, we've not got to the business end of the competition yet. I'm disappointed with one thing, and I think they've blown it completely. They're talking about the numbers they're getting. It's behind the paywall. The only games that are on terrestrial television are actually the French national team games themselves. That's why they're getting 11 millions, etc. But all the other games, I mean, I'm here to go and cover it. Now, you know what it's like, you can't go to every game, so you turn on the telly and you look for it, you can't get it. And if I'm in the media and I'm interested and I'm keen and I'm trying to get to watch it, and I can't get to watch it, well, what's it like for people who are kind of vaguely interested? It's really poor showing. Right. Obviously, it was a financial deal that they did that there. But that's had a negative effect, and it should have had a much more positive effect. Maybe it's something I'm just used to. Everywhere I've ever went to watch a World Cup, we do the World Cup, we come home for a game and watch the other games that are on. But it's not been happening here.
No, I didn't realise that. I would have thought they should make that some kind of stipulation of hosting the tournament. You know, you want to catch the floating voter.
Well, I would suggest so, but the argument against that is, you know, you've done a deal. And the deal's actually got a lot of money, and some of it might make its way. Did you notice the might there? Some of it might make its way back into the women's game, and maybe that's a good thing in that way. But you're trying to promote the thing, trying to build the thing. I mean, they're doing a great job. The French, if you look at the French, the adverts on the television here for their women's team are brilliant. I mean, they've got a right good ad agency in doing that one. That's cool. But everything else, it's as if it didn't happen. And that's a disappointment. It may build and it may grow. But you're right, I think it should be a stipulation that it's a world game, it's something we're all supposed to share. How about letting us all see it? It's really, I think it's just grossly unfair. There's a lot of people, if you think of, France, that Nigeria game there, there's a lot of Nigerians in Paris and in France. Well, they'd have to pay for that. Not everyone can afford to do that as well. So I'm pretty gutted by that, and I think that's a wee bit of an own goal. But the numbers will out in the end, I suppose.
All World Cups, men's and women's, take on a certain style. Is attacking football in vogue? Is defensive football in vogue? What are we seeing?
Right. A number of people will have said, is it goalkeeping mistakes that are in vogue this time, or is it centre-half mistakes, or is it own goals? Because that's what a lot of people were suggesting beforehand. To be fair, the goalkeeping has been very up and down. There have been some stinking displays, but there have been some absolutely brilliant ones as well. But it's just, interestingly, there's been the entire mix. Every country that goes to any World Cup comes with a different attitude. Now, I'll give you one perfect example to start with, Argentina. Argentina were getting absolutely battered all the time. Like, even average teams, like South Korea, a kind of average team, average to good, and they beat Argentina 5-0, and they were getting hammered on the way to this tournament. But they got through, and when they got here, they've basically played a 9-1 formation, and it's worked. That's not the way they play. So they've managed to get a 0-0 and a 1-0 defeat, and then they've got Scotland coming up. But they've changed it completely. They've been ultra negative. They've been very, very well organised and structured, just like some teams come to the World Cup. And whereas you look at the USA, you look at the French, and you look at, even England, Scotland to some degree as well, they're open and they play open football, they're trying to have a go at each other. There's a lack of real knowledge of who's going to beat who here. It's not as if almost, see when you watch the men's World Cup, you always know who should beat who all the time. Kind of not really like that a lot of the time. The big names, the 6, 7, 8 big names, but each of them look perfectly capable of beating the other. I'd probably put USA now just above everybody else. They look, there just doesn't seem to be a weakness in their team, but on their day they can get done as well.
And as you watched them celebrate goal number 13 with the gusto of a last-minute winner, were you as dismayed as the Canadian commentary team were?
That's a great question, and I've been thinking about that. Nobody's asked me it yet, so I've managed to duck it. Look, if you feel that way about it, and it means that much to you, then well done, great. The men's teams wouldn't do that. You just wouldn't do it. It's certain respect for your opponents, certain you don't want to rub it in, but there's a different ethics probably the wrong word, but a different culture, slight different culture in the men's and the women's game. I get it. It's okay. You're allowed to be different. But absolutely 100% you don't do that. And apart from if you do that in the men's game, we'll all just laugh at you. You jump about like a lunatic if you win the league and you just go goal number 12 and 13. But from their position, it's the World Cup. They've scored a goal in the World Cup, and maybe they are. I'm sure they are delighted. From a male perspective, and it is only a male perspective, I thought it was unseemly. But I'm not offended by it. I just thought it was slightly unseemly.
Disrespectful to the Thai players.
Disrespect. I hate. It's one of my least favourite words. Disrespectful. I get really annoyed with it when people say it's usually somebody like Paul Pogba. These people have been disrespectful towards him. They'll say, shut up and just play football.
Yeah. I don't want to disrespect you here by using the word disrespectful, but. You didn't like the feel of it. You didn't like doing it to a fellow player, rubbing their faces in it a bit too much, that kind of thing. Yeah,
it was almost unspoken. You play football. I mean, right? I'm going to give you a 1, 2, 3. We have to come up with an answer here at the same time, right?
Okay.
Right, so the 1, 2, 3 is when it's embarrassing, when you stop celebrating. So what goal number do you stop? Okay. Mm-hmm. So we both have a guess. So
okay.
1, 2, 3,
5,
6. Right, okay, so it's there, isn't it? It's right there. So because it's right there, we know where it stops. It just, that culture might not naturally be in the women's game. I think it'll come in now. I was really saddened by that game, and by the way, I watched the Thailand next game. By 2 things about it. Number 1, Thailand lost 13 goals. I didn't blame the keeper for one of them, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And the second one was the next game. Honestly, you so admired them because they fought and they battled and they chased, and they were ultra positive about the game, and they finally got their goal. They get 5-1, but they got their goal.
Yeah. And they enjoyed it and they celebrated. There were tears in the stand from, I think she's the head of an insurance company who backs the team. So you kind of saw what it meant to them, I suppose. Like a part of me initially, when I heard about the celebrating the 13th goal, I thought it was a little bit ridiculous as well. It didn't overly dispose me to the American team. And then the backlash was so great that I kind of thought, well, actually, they're getting a bit too much heat over this. And now I hope they score 15 against Chile and go ballistic on the 15th goal, because screw everyone. And they sort of did their own little, polite golf clap celebration. Because again, with all these things, there's like the backlash and then the backlash of the backlash. I'm not quite sure where I am in the cycle.
See, I don't get angry with either. I just have a kind of feeling sort of one way that, look, that's kind of not what we do. Get a wee bit of professional respect for your players that you're playing against. And they were respectful for them afterwards. And then they were chatting to them and they were fine afterwards. But, I get a feeling down the line somewhere they won't be like that. But I know a couple of the American players and some of the ex-players. And one I've mentioned to you before is a girl called Heather O'Reilly, really great friend of mine. And you just need to listen to them talk for 5 minutes and you realise they have got this attitude of, we're going to beat you, but we're going to kill you, and we're going to hammer you, and we're going to rub it in. And it's just the American way. Yeah,
I think that's totally true. And even I've seen various interviews with some of their players, and they have a real attitude within their own camp of, if you are not playing well, or if things aren't going great for you, or you've setbacks, it's not really the kind of environment where we're going to pick you up and stick with you through thick and thin. It's, well, we press on without you. We ain't even looking back. We're moving on. That seems to, like, they are out to crush people, and that, I guess, was evident in the way they kept on going against Thailand. I wanted on England, who play tomorrow. They're kind of second in the French are second in the betting, and then there's a little bit of a gap, and then England, they play tomorrow. Phil Neville is by all accounts doing a really good job. Tony Duggan, who plays at Barcelona, she was talking about how he's really got them playing brilliant football. Under the last manager, they were a bit more direct. Neville himself was talking about how they work constantly on sequences of 6, 7, 8, 9 passes to control games. In their victory over Argentina, their centre-backs completed more passes than all of the opposition players put together. So they're trying to play a really nice brand of football. Could they spring a bit of a surprise here, or is there just too much of a gap between the English and USA and France?
They could, but I think the odds are right. There is England against France, maybe. England against USA, I think that's a tougher call. USA at their very strongest. I think maybe have too much for England. But on the day, they're perfectly capable. Down the right-hand side, England are unbelievable. You look at certain players and you think, I wonder what level you could manage in the men's game. There's not that many, because just purely for the physical side, there isn't that many. But Lucy Bronze, you think, I'd be interested to see where you would fit in. You would be okay in certain levels at the male game. I don't know what level. It wouldn't be the very top. But her technical abilities are fine. She's very, very strong, very fast. And she's got a great understanding and standing with Paris in front of her as well. So that right-hand side of England, if they can get that going, there's not really that many teams in this World Cup that can stop them too. But they need to keep it going for the entire match. And they've got, Bright at the back, who she's very, very strong. I watched her a lot at Chelsea. Very, very strong player. So there's a strength about the team. I don't know if they're firing on all cylinders yet. In fact, I'm sure they're not firing on all cylinders yet. And people seem to have forgotten they had a right good dip before they came to the World Cup. So I'm not sure that they've hit the ground running the way they wanted to. I mean, only beating Scotland, and Scotland really giving them a fright right at the end. That wasn't that exciting. So if they get to semi-finals, I think they've done an absolutely brilliant job. It's going to be tough.
Something I wanted to ask you about was about styles of football around the world, men's game, women's game. Clearly a multitude of factors seem to decide why Brazil play in a certain way, Ireland play in a certain way, and the Dutch play in a certain way. Like, I'm sure the weather, for a start, has something to do with it, and then about a billion other things. Is there a match-up in terms of styles of play between men's and women's games? Like, do the women Brazilian team and the women's Irish team and the women's Dutch team, would they be recognisable in some respects by comparison with how the men's game has evolved?
You guys, again, brilliant question. And I think there is. It's not absolutely clear, it's not absolutely clean. One obvious one, Spain. Spain play like Spain.
Right.
But they're kind of young, and they, in 4 or 5 years' time, it's almost like watching Spain. Remember, Spain used to go to those World Cups and Euros, and we all thought they were great, and then they just never done it. And you saw it will never happen. They're being Spain. And then suddenly it flourished and it happened. Well, the Spain women are a bit like that. So this is definitely a tournament too early for them, but watch out for them. They're going that way.
Right.
The Germans, they've always been similar. I've been watching the German women for 15, maybe more years, and they've been always very similar to the men's national team. French are very open. Again, quick wingers. I've got a player called Henri playing. You don't need to hate this one. This one's really good, actually.
No handballs here.
Yeah, to be honest, the player Henri, if you're not watching at the moment and you're a football fan and you're still a bit sneery about the women's football, it's okay. I think it's allowed. Have a watch at this girl Henri in the middle of the centre midfield for the French team. She's absolutely brilliant, head and shoulders technically above everyone else. She's a real class act. She is, and we know that they get some good midfielders in France. Like Franck Pogba all the way, to our little man down at Chelsea. They're different. They're interesting. They're unusual. They get good central midfielders. So from N'Golo Kante all the way to this girl Henri, she is fabulous. I think she's among the best players that I've seen in this tournament so far. And she's not even the one everyone just talks about. There's a Wendy Reynard who plays. You always have to mention the men's game, but she plays very like Van Dijk.
Right.
And she's about a foot
tall. Yeah,
taller.
I saw her headed goal in the opening night. Yeah, she's
she scored a penalty last night as well. Yeah,
the controversial, the VAR.
Exactly.
Actually, it's funny. So you mentioned the sneery thing, and I'm not too bothered about it because this thing's moving in the right direction, and in 4 years and 8 years and 12 years and 16 years, it's just going to get bigger and bigger, and it's all going to be fine. Maybe not as quick as people would like, but I'm not too worried about the women's game. But on the goalkeeping, which is an area where people do get sneery, I wanted to get your thoughts on the piece Emma Hayes wrote, because I just thought it was very brave and logical, and was roundly shot down by lots of people, and people got very defensive and very prickly. And look, I'm even conscious it's two blokes talking about the women's game. I don't know why I feel conscious of that. I shouldn't. No, it's
women can talk about
exactly. I wouldn't totally. So I'll plough on. So she's been the Chelsea manager since 2012, and she's often been on the debate show on Sky Sports. Really, really good contributor, I think, when she's on. So we have seen good goalkeeping performances, and we've seen some dreadful goalkeeping performances, I think it's fair to say. And she is talking about the inherited dimensions of the game that we've just kind of taken as, well, that's just what the men do, so that's what we'll do. And she started off by talking about the average height of a British female is 5'3". The average height of a British male is 5'9". And she talks about other sports, like the women's hurdles, she says, in the Olympics are 9 inches shorter. Talks about the women's basketball, in women's NBA, the basketball is smaller. She didn't mention golf and the ladies' tees being different to the men's tees, but that was an example which jumped out at me. So she said, I hope those examples introduce a little factual perspective into a debate about the size of pitches and goals in women's football, which I believe is worth having. I am not seeking controversy, famous last words, because she sure got it last week. She said, I just come from a place where we should always be questioning the status quo. Why is something done this way? Talks about, average Premier League goalkeeper in men's football 6'3" versus 5'8" in the Women's Super League, so a 7-inch difference. And she is saying, of course it would make sense to look at the size of the goals. The dimensions are quite possibly too big. We're seeing, even though there's less power in the shots, we're seeing more goals from outside the box in women's football, and maybe it's not necessarily a good look for the game. And this is someone who cares deeply about the game, who works in the game, and she only wants the best for it. Now, it was roundly shot down. The other argument, of course, is that, well, coaching needs to improve dramatically before you make a step like that. What are you seeing, or what's been the talk out there?
Emma's someone who I know quite well, obviously from my time at Chelsea. When I suggested after Conte left that she should be one of the people in the running for the job as manager at Chelsea, that was hammered quite a lot, and I've mentioned it again now after Sarri going, and she's actually not batting it away now, which is interesting. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Emma, and I admire her that much. I've just personally wouldn't like the goals to be changed because, in simple terms, it's an arms race. And the arms race, if you have a look back in history, when the goals were made the size they are, what was the average height of the British man? It was 5'8".
Good point.
Yes.
Good point. Good point.
And,
good point. Yeah, that's a great point.
Exactly. So that's the way it was. Now, you're absolutely make the point. She makes the point as well. You know, there's some goals going in from outside the box going over, but there's not the same power or strength in the shots, and there isn't either. But it will be an arms race. And in simple terms, I recently was at a Sports Personality of the Year in England, and honest to God, there was one group of people who just basically made everyone else look pathetic, and it was a women's netball team, right? And they're all 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", and you know what? Somewhere along the line, they're going to be the goalkeepers of the future. They're going to play. It's just an arms race. There are some fantastic goalkeepers out here. There are men that are 5'8". Doesn't matter. That's the arms race. You're going to lose it because you're going to be 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". That will happen in the women's game. They will go and find those people. They will go and trim them up, and they will have them as goalkeepers. It will not make a difference in the end. So I can understand why Emma says it. I don't think it's necessary. The game won't need it in a couple of years. Yeah,
that's a well-argued point. Listen, pleasure as always. Enjoy the next couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll check in.
I'm looking forward to it, and I might even watch some football as well as going to see the artworks.
Yeah, good man. Pat Nevin, thanks.
Pleasure.